Hello and welcome to the tip here at agendatruth.com, where the truth is our only agenda. We've got a very interesting episode for you tonight, so I hope that you really pay attention. We're going to talk about some of the stuff that's going on and why we see that a financial collapse could be on the horizon, what the government is doing to prepare for it, and we're also going to offer some suggestions on how you can prepare for it as well. All right. Now, when someone suggests the idea of a collapse in regards to social or financial, it often brings to mind the thoughts of mass rioting followed by the instituting of martial law to restore order. Or possibly even thoughts of a zombie-like creatures that feed off of other humans. That's kind of weird. In today's time of entertainment extremes from the world of television and movies, I have come to the conclusion that our society has a very narrow understanding of what exactly a collapse is. Unless they are being chased in the streets themselves by an angry mob with pitchforks and torches, then the average person probably doesn't see that things in our country are really that bad. The truth is that a collapse is not a single event that provides that aha, oh, there it is, eureka type of moment. It is a systematic process. It is a dreadful piece of sheet music with carefully placed notes, each taking its place in the composition that creates the entire work of art. You would think the past 4 years since the fall of the housing market and derivatives bubble would have made its point. The point being that a disaster has the means to kill an entire nation by sweeping it away slowly as if it were in a river of chocolate pudding. Well, that just sounds kind of kinky. That said, practically every modern civilization collapse recorded in history has been marked with precedented trigger events. Those triggers often mark the time in which the opinions of others just go out the window and the mathematical proof takes over, concluding that absolute failure is certain, even while many still cannot mentally accept the truth. So, what will a collapse really be like? I anticipate there will be some catastrophic events, but I also believe there will be some major but unnoticeable events. The trigger events of the collapse may occur very rapidly and some under the radar. However, the reaction to those trigger events will more than likely be slow, uncertain, and presumptive. Our very foundation will have cracks. However, the true extent of our problems may take several years to become noticed. While the general public is simply waiting to witness some form of an apocalyptic nightmare, the very real nightmare will be taking place right in front of their eyes, in the form of massive increases in food and energy costs. Have you seen that? High unemployment. Large food lines that are masked by mass use of food stamps. Keep that in mind. All of this, that is until no one will loan our broke government any more money and the entitlement programs are forced to suddenly disappear like a horrible magic act. For a time, it will seem just a little bit worse than what we have currently been living through. Instead of the Hollywood end of days apocalypse that we have come to expect. Today, we see the highest levels of Americans that are dependent on the federal government in U.S. history. According to the survey of income and program participation conducted by the U.S. Census, well over 100 million Americans are enrolled in at least one welfare program run by the federal government. Many Americans are receiving more than one welfare program from the government. Let me put this into perspective. That is one third of the entire population of the United States is receiving some form of welfare from the government. 1/3 of the entire population of the United States. 1 in 3. Sadly, that's not the worst part. That figure is not even counting for the individuals receiving Medicare or Social Security. Currently, the federal government operates approximately 80 individual means-tested welfare programs, and approximately half of those entitlement programs have seen massive increases in their enrollment in the last few years. Yes, we will more than likely always require a safety net for those individuals who truly need assistance in taking care of themselves. However, we must absolutely admit that it is downright ridiculous, just downright ridiculous, that the federal government is providing some form of aid to 1/3 of the United States population. Come on, Americans. I know you are better than that. So let me ask you this. What more do you really need to know before you will finally open your eyes and admit that we indeed have a massive problem that seriously needs to be addressed, and like right now, not after the election, not next year, not when all this stuff, right now. Unfortunately, I have my doubts that we will ever fix the problem, because doing what must be done is considered political suicide. And also, we have this gigantic debt that just keeps being placed on our backs, and it keeps going up and up like a helium balloon that will probably collapse our entire economic system before anyone can really do anything effectively positive anyway. So, why do I feel this way? Here are some examples for you of exactly what I'm talking about. The number of people in the United States that are utilizing the food stamp program, now pay attention please. Mark this down, notepad, paper. I want you to not only hear me tell it to you, but I want you to see this. The number of people in the United States utilizing the food stamp program was 17 million in the year 2000. It was 31.9 million when President Obama took office. And now it has 46.4 million people enrolled today. The federal government spent an explosive $71.8 billion on the food stamp program in 2011 alone. Guess what? Enrollment in the Medicaid program is growing like my wife's potted flowers after giving them a good bath in Miracle-Gro. The number of people enrolled in Medicare grew from 34 million in 2000 to 54 million people in 2011. That translated to 1/6 of the U.S. population is now enrolled and receiving assistance from Medicaid. The projections of additional enrollment into the Medicaid program from the enactment of Obamacare are estimated to add another 16 million Americans to its books. And, we all know how those wonderful government estimations work out. We'll just throw this number out there so it seems kind of low. Everyone will be happy with that. They'll accept it. And then once it's enacted, the real mathematical equation is to put a multiplication sign and maybe add the number 22 beside it. Something around that nature, right? Several other government entitlement programs are exploding in enrollment also. For example, the government housing aid increased by 42% from 2006 to 2010. Right now, approximately 61 million Americans obtain assistance in the form of Social Security. Now, let's talk about Social Security for a minute. Social Security can be categorized as the largest wealth redistribution Ponzi scheme in the history of the world. And, unfortunate for many, it's coming to a grand finale. Just like the common ending to a well-planned Ponzi scheme, you remember that Bernie Madoff guy? The first people who invested into the scheme actually gain a return, but those who get in late in the game get the short end of the stick. The Associated Press recently reported people retiring today are part of the first generation of workers who have paid more in Social Security taxes during their careers than they will receive in benefits after they retire. It's a historic shift that will only get worse for future retirees. The problem is, unlike a Ponzi scheme, people are not allowed to not participate in this one. So moving forward, all of us suckers, probably like me, who will still be paying in, are now being guaranteed that we will essentially lose money and will receive no security whatsoever. Actually, as a younger person, I'm quite pleased that the Ponzi scheme is starting to fail. While I do indeed have a heart for all the people who paid into the system their whole lives and will more than likely not recoup a single penny, the truth be told is that the government stole the money from you. The government stole the money from you. And continuing the theft from our children will most certainly not make things better. Taxes are theft, all of them. The sooner you unbrainwash your mind that taxation is some form of patriotism, the sooner we can truly begin to work on the healing process to save our beloved country. Medicare is also increasing. Recently, projections claim that the number of of Americans seeking aid from Medicare will increase from 50.7 million in 2012 to 73.2 million by the year 2025. Well, gee whiz Wally, leave it to Beaver, right? What do you think about that? Here's a real shocker to get your juices flowing, as if everything I've been telling you now hasn't got your heart rate going and you're all pumped up already. The unfunded liabilities for Medicare alone is upwards of over $38 trillion. Trillion with a T. It's upwards of over $38 trillion over the next 75 years. Guess what? That comes to a total bill of $328,404 for every single household in America. So when you pay your bill there, make sure you don't forget the tip. Friends, that is just considering Medicare. Our society has become completely dependent upon the federal government and their printing press money. A report from the Center for Immigration Studies states that 43% of all immigrants that have been in the United States for at least 20 years are still on welfare. Now, keep in mind, that study is only counting the immigrants that have been here in America for at least 20 years. It does not include those that have been here for, let's just say, 19 years. The system is broken. We have accrued the biggest pile of debt the world has ever seen. Debt is slavery. Look, debt is slavery. Look at your children. Look at your grandchildren. We are enslaving them. Don't you get it? You say you hate slavery and we talk about what a horrible period in American history slavery was, but we are the very people who are enslaving our very own children and grandchildren. We are no different than the very slave traders of 150 years ago. Just admit it. We are yet again having a federal deficit well above $1 trillion being placed upon the backs of our children, and our so-called elected politicians do not care. If they truly cared, they would do something about it. They just continue spending and spending and spending like money is going out of style. Well, guess what? It is. They are spending like it is the last hurrah before heading off to our doom. Well, you idiots in Washington, it is the spending that is the cause of our doom. I bet you politicians are just so proud of yourselves. I read enough history to know exactly how you will be written about in the history books of the future. Here, I'll sum it up. Here is Chris Toney's prophetic vision of what a history book will say about our current elected people in today's time. You will be written as arrogant, psychopathic, complete moronic, stupid, ignorant idiots. Guess what? And that's just the short version. When you divide up the national debt of the United States, each of us owe just over $181,000. That's per citizen. So when are you going to pay your bill? And more importantly, how are you going to pay your bill of $181,000? We Americans have become addicted to debt, and we need to go cold turkey right now. And yes, we are going to have some painful withdrawals, but if we do not, we are going to die. Are you listening to me? If we do not curb our addiction to debt and spending, we are going to die. We're going to die economically. It's going to kill our economy. Our economy is going to die. This is a wake-up call. What we were doing on our show today is quote-unquote an intervention. And don't be fooled with it's the Democrats' fault or it's the Republicans' fault, okay? It's the fault of both political parties and also ourselves for getting us into this mess. We absolutely, without any doubt, cannot afford to support 1/3, over 100 million Americans financially. It is complete madness, and it absolutely must come to an end. Now, we got to take a short break because I got to get my blood pressure here down and get my heart rate back to some sort of a healthy rhythm. So we'll be back in just a minute.
Hi, my name is Forrest Nolan. I'm one of the owners of Bartels Harley-Davidson in Marina Del Rey, California. You may have heard of us. We call ourselves the legendary Bartels. We build a lot of the bikes for the movies. So we know what customer service is about because we have to deal with high-profile clients. We treat everybody the same. Everyone's a star at Bartels, so we know what it takes to give the service that a customer deserves. Credit card transactions are very important to us because we do a lot of offshore business. And probably 25 to 35% of our business now, if not higher, is from offshore. We take the international credit cards as well as just the standard cards that are used by most of all consumers today. We've been using Central Payment 5-6 years. We chose them, basically we were with one of the giants in the industry and just weren't getting any service. So I decided that it was time for a change. The vendors are very important in relation to how they perform, but also it's how the rep treats you and how the rep responds to issues, because there's going to be issues with any vendor. And I can't be running a business here with a credit card processing not functioning correctly, because it would cost me a lot of money. And she's been excellent, and that relationship has been one of the big reasons that, that we've stayed with Central Payment. I get at least a dozen inquiries a month, email or a credit card processor coming in wanting to meet with me. But the bottom line is they all have the same pitch. We'll do a better job for less money. But I've learned that you get what you pay for, and I feel I have a good value with Central Payment, and the value is more important to me and the relationship with the company and the response to our issues than just having a low price. In 3 words, very great service. To me, that's important. And the price is good, but without the service, the price doesn't make any difference.
Welcome back. All of these things that we have been talking about, you know, when you compound them, you know, along with the other problems, when you compound them all together, it makes a big picture. These things compounded by other problems are expediting the economic catastrophe of America. And let me tell you something, the government is fully aware of it. They're not stupid. Look, I prepare for things, and you know, I do not have a year's supply of food storage, so I can simply say that I have it. I have it to protect my family because I truly believe we have some very, very dark times coming to America. You know, not being prepared is what causes that time to be a time of chaos and atrocities. Being prepared makes a dark time much lighter. You know, I prepare to help my family and others so that we can and will be able to restore our country. The government is aware of the situation, and the government has been preparing as well, but not in a way that looks too positive for we the people. But what do you mean the government has been preparing? Well, let's look at the Department of Homeland Security, also known as DHS. Now, before I go into this next section, I must state that our crew here, whenever they saw what we're going to be talking about, asked that they need to invest in some body armor or maybe some personal security guards, because when you start talking about DHS, I think you run a very probable suspicion that one day you could be walking down the street and some unmarked van will just pop out, throw a black bag over your head, and you just disappear, especially after you learn everything we're about to tell you. All right, now, the vision of DHS from the website is to ensure a homeland that is safe, secure, and resilient against terrorism and other hazards where American interests, aspirations, and way of life can thrive. Man, that just sounds fantastic. It kind of gives me that warm, fuzzy, loving feeling like I'm about to go to Disneyland or something. Not. Actually, it makes me kind of want to puke. You must understand that DHS is only supposed to operate inside the United States. So, someone please tell me why the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, just purchased 450 million rounds of 40 caliber hollow point bullets. Think about it. That is more bullets than the entire population in the United States. That means that they would have at least one bullet for every single U.S. citizen, and also some extras for those of us who just won't stay down. Now, I know you're about to tell me that it is for training purposes. Well, I'm sorry, but you do not train with hollow point bullets. Hollow points are made for one thing and one thing only, and that is to do the most damage to a human being as possible with only one ending intention, and that is the death of the person you are shooting. In conjunction with this report, another report just came out today, that DHS just placed another order for 750 million rounds of ammo. On top of that, DHS recently made a purchase of 175 million rounds of 223 rifle rounds. These are the bullets our boys on the battlefield are using. Now, do not let these bullets fool you. They are high power, lethal, and destructive. They will shoot through many steel plates like a hot knife through butter. Let me put this into perspective real quick. Major General Buford C. Blount III gave testimony before the Tactical Air and Land Forces Subcommittee of the Committee on Armed Services of the House of Representatives, revealing an active battle operation in Iraq, ammunition is expended at the rate of 5.5 million rounds per month. Now, if you do the math, that totals to 66 million rounds of ammo utilized in Iraq per year. DHS just purchased enough ammo to carry out a 20-year war. A 20-year war, okay? And they do not fight in wars overseas. They operate right here inside the United States, and that's it. Also, it must be noted that it is a violation of the Geneva Convention to use hollow points or expanding ammunition on the battlefield. Also, DHS just bought hundreds of personal protection riot control gear. Wow, I'm starting to see a couple pieces of this puzzle coming together. Now, let's not forget the most recent request for purchase. This one is very, very interesting. DHS recently solicited the government marketplace a request via the Transportation Safety Administration, TSA, for 700 pounds of high-density ammonium nitrate and 700 pounds of A5 flake RDX to be delivered by August 31st of this year, 2012. That is approximately 4 days before the launch of the Democratic National Convention. DHS is reporting that the purchase of all this explosive material is to implement training for their bomb-sniffing dogs. Here's the problem. As stated in the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Law Enforcement Guide to Explosives Incident Reporting Document, in order to detonate ammonium nitrate, the use of a booster is required. Commercially, pentolites and RDX are used as a booster, while the military will often use TNT as a booster. So instead of utilizing some, let's say just some general low-grade analog to train the dogs, they're requesting high-density, top-of-the-notch, top-grade quality of ammonium nitrate. Oh, and don't forget, in order to blow up the ammonium nitrate, they want to use RDX. The Department of Homeland Security is requesting both components of a binary explosive compound to be delivered to a government facility in downtown Atlantic City, New Jersey. Now, just like we did with the amount of ammunition DHS just purchased, let me put the explosives purchase into perspective for you. Timothy McVeigh used 5,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate and motor racing fuel as the booster. RDX is much more effective and has a much greater explosiveness than the material utilized by McVeigh. And McVeigh was a mass murderer and domestic terrorist, and the materials purchased by DHS would be on par to do very similar destruction and death if these materials were ever to be detonated. Just for the purpose of argument, if one dog needed only 1 ounce of each material in order to be trained and tested, then they have enough material to train 11,200 dogs at the exact same time. So I just for some reason, I just don't see that happening. And maybe since DHS is in this massive buying move, I think they need to invest a whole lot of pooper scoopers. That's just my thoughts. There are a few brave informants and some military personnel that are coming forth anonymously for risk of harm or losing their job, who seriously proclaim that martial law in the United States is right around the corner. DHS has also been purchasing heavy armor and has entered into contracts for bulletproof glass to be utilized by checkpoint booths. That will strategically be placed throughout the country on highways and interstates. This has drastically increased the awareness that the government knows something is coming and is preparing. There have also been reported sightings of armored vehicles marked by DHS on highways right here in my home state of Kentucky. Some individuals from reserve units in Arizona claim that they have been put on alert. They are being instructed not to plan any vacations and to be prepared to be on call and indefinitely on duty. Now, we initially thought that with all the issues occurring in the Middle East with Syria and Iran, that maybe they were being put on alert for those reasons alone. However, one source states that they are not being prepared to deploy overseas, but that they have been being prepared and trained for domestic service that are related to riots and civil unrest. Military drills, aka urban warfare, have been played out in many states by the Pentagon and other branches of the U.S. Armed Forces. In Plainville and Worcester, Massachusetts, surprised citizens witnessed last Wednesday evening military helicopters descended on the vacant wood school in the late hours of the night. Locals had black helicopters descend down on their homes. In Hollywood, Florida, DHS and the Hollywood Police Department have taken part in master repelling training exercises with Black Hawk helicopters scheduled over various government-owned buildings. The exact reasoning and details of the exercise are kept from the public for, quote, security reasons. Someone needs to go and remind these guys who really writes their paychecks, okay? I think they work for us. Recently, foreign soldiers were spotted at a Walmart of all places. Yeah, I'm sorry. When I read this story and it got verified, I was in shock. Foreign soldiers at a Walmart. So we're foreign soldiers. We come from a faraway country, and we want to go to Walmart. I can see this now. Hey, comrade, we're out of ammunition, and we need some more weapons. Let's go to this place that these Americans call Wally World. You know, they do sell assault rifles at Walmart nowadays. You know, it's kind of neat. You can pick up an AR-15 while you're getting your milk. It's pretty neat, along with all the ammunition you need. I kind of wonder if DHS didn't buy their 750 million rounds of ammunition from Wally World. Maybe these foreign troops did. Anyway, while these foreign soldiers are spotting at a Walmart of all places, it was described that they were traveling in large government vans. There's been new law enforcement battalions created out of Camp Pendleton, California, made up of SMPs, or Specialized Military Police, that will be utilized to aid local authorities in the event of riots, the management of any detainees, and also to implement the use of biometrics to help ID potential suspects. Woo! Wow, it's getting a little evasive here, I think. The mainstream media has practically ignored the crisis taking place in Anaheim that is dangerously close to becoming martial law if it is not already. Protests have been occurring because the Anaheim police have recently shot and killed 2 individuals of the community. One individual was allegedly on the ground and handcuffed when shot by police. Now, one of the videos that I recently watched, there were a bunch of people that seemed like they were kind of questioning the police a little bit. It looked like men, women, children, babies in baby strollers, and you know, younger children as well. And the police surrounded around them and then began firing rubber bullets into men, women, and children. And actually let loose a police dog that knocked over a baby stroller just after I think the mother got the baby out of the stroller, and then began biting a young man. We're going to watch this short video clip and so you can see this for yourself.
Chaos and violence in the streets of Anaheim. Anaheim police firing rubber bullets confront a crowd of terrified children, parents, and angry residents near La Palma and Acacia. Then one officer unleashes a snarling police dog which attacks a mother holding her child and this bystander.
They just started shooting and I was with my son and the dog just came.
This is the man that was on the floor.
You're right.
And the
He
man
was on the floor and they shot.
Talk about what happened.
They just released the dog and I had my baby and my in my stroller, and the dog just scratched me with his teeth and then just grabbed me.
It all started around 4 o'clock this afternoon when police shot this man, known in the community as Stomper. Police say he was one of 3 men who took off running when they approached him earlier in the afternoon.
What exactly happened during the shooting, we don't know. We're still investigating that. But the shooting occurred and the male was taken to a local hospital.
But neighbors who saw the shooting say police overreacted. Then they confronted the officers demanding answers. That's when the pandemonium broke out.
We just started shooting again. No, we don't have no guns, nothing.
I just got scared. I just saw a water bottle get thrown in the air. They just started shooting everyone. They shot at little kids too.
Now, city officials are preparing for yet another large incident and another riot. Protesters are expressing their displeasure with those who infiltrate their peaceful protests in an attempt to antagonize the police. During these protests, unmarked white vans utilized by police have been showing up. There have even been times when unidentified police officers have arrested protesters and placed them inside these unmarked white vans. Is that not scary or what? Kind of reminds me of something that I would anticipate in the Soviet Union. This activity is occurring for a reason, and the government is not instituting its policies and making these preparatory purchases. It is for the sake of just doing so. From the increased activity and conduction of urban warfare drills to taking notice of foreign troops in government vehicles hanging out at our local Walmarts, shows that the U.S. government has plans to implement martial law in America and probably sometime very soon. But why should you be worried? You're a model citizen, right? Who keeps your nose clean, and most importantly, you probably more likely keep your mouth shut, right? Well, while the DHS operates inside the United States, some interesting studies by the Department of Homeland Security have been revealed. This past winter, President Obama signed the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, which authorized the indefinite detention of U.S. citizens without trial or charge of suspected citizens who are in support of any terror group or activity. Now, this violates your constitutional right of habeas corpus. You're probably thinking, well, I hate terrorists and I've got nothing to worry about. Well, that completely depends on what the definition of a terrorist is, now doesn't it? The studies by DHS, which are now beginning to surface and being outlined, consider the following terrorist activity now. 1. Those who support third-party presidential candidates. 2. Those who support the Second Amendment. 3. Those who support pro-life positions. So if you're against abortion, guess what? You're considered a potential terrorist. 4. Those who are returning veterans. That one just baffles me. These guys go, these men and women go and serve their country, and they come home, and they're considered a potential terrorist threat. Just a little wrong in my eyes. And last but not least, number 5, anyone who thinks that Washington has become too powerful. Now, as I let you think about that, we've got to take a short commercial break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
The emotions that people radiate and the emotions that they carry around with them, that tells a story about them. For me, photography is about telling a story because everybody has a story to tell. And if they're not willing to share it in words, they're showing it through emotion. I'm Stephanie Reeder, and I'm a lifestyle wedding photographer. Those are the moments that you're going to remember for the rest of your life. To me, that's what photography is all about.
Dear friends, we're going to come here to the conclusion, and if you have hated this episode, if you disagree with what I'm saying, I want you to pay attention to this last and final portion here, okay? Since the government is preparing, shouldn't you? And how do you do that? I want to tell you how to prepare. The government does not want you to be prepared because they need you. They need you to depend on them. But if you exercise individual self-responsibility, you will have true freedom and liberty. Here are some steps to help you prepare, okay? We're going to come over here. So how do you get started? All right? You need to save up enough money to cover your mandatory expenses for a minimum of 6 months. This will buy you some time to figure out your next plan if you were to lose your job or something of that nature. If you are an extremely high risk if you're currently living paycheck to paycheck. So keep that in mind. You need to try to work and change that. All right, number 2, what should I do with my money? That's always a good question that I get. Now look, do not put all your money in one place. If you put all your money under the mattress, what happens if your house catches on fire, right? Spread your money around in different places. Have a small amount in the bank, some at the house, maybe some at your relatives. Just do not have all your eggs in one basket. However, I would never have any of my money in the stock market right now. If you caught the recent rally, great, I'm happy for you. Listen, get out now while you're ahead or breaking even, all right? Number 3, should I invest in precious metals? That's a big thing that you hear about on all kinds of things, okay? I invest in metals myself. But listen, when you invest in metals, some of these companies want you to take like a silver or a gold certificate. Listen, Do not accept the certificates. Take physical possession of your medals. But listen, also, please educate yourself first so that you know what you're doing, okay? Number 4, should I get out of debt? I'm asked this a lot as well. There are those who say not to pay off your debts if the financial system is going to collapse anyway. I completely disagree. I do not see that the banks are going to completely collapse and suddenly be non-existent. Possibly in the long term, that's true, but not in the near enough future to advise you to abandon your obligations. Okay? It truly is a great idea and plan to get yourself out of debt or get yourself out of as much debt as you possibly can. Being debt-free truly offers a lot of freedom and liberty. And in the event of a collapse, you want to be as independent as much as you possibly can. Number 5, what if I don't have money to prepare? I know that's a tough one. I know that many of you may be scraping by, and a government dead set on increasing your taxes, it only makes it that much harder. However, I think that in most cases, if you really thought about it, there is somewhere that your family could decrease its spending to save just a little and or utilize that revenue for preparations. Okay? Number 6, should I rent or buy? Like, should I rent a home or an apartment, or should I buy a house? That's a very good question. Renting does provide you with more options. It is much easier to relocate elsewhere if the situation called for such a decision to be made. In regards to buying a home, you're given the opportunity to lock in your expenses for the long term. This can be very, very beneficial in regards to a high inflationary period or a time of when the possibility of hyperinflation is probable. Because if you get like a fixed rate mortgage and also we have hyperinflation and you owe like $150,000 on your house and we have hyperinflation, well then you could potentially be earning $150,000 an hour. Just look at the Weimar Republic of Germany. And in essence, you could pay off your house in a day. It's possible. Make sure you get a fixed rate mortgage though, okay? Now also interest rates are at all-time lows at the moment, so there's a benefit there. Number 7, this is a question I get from a lot of people as well. What about my health condition, okay? I anticipate that our healthcare system should continue business as usual for the most part, at least in the short-term view. But I think we can agree to a point that our health system is not exactly in the best shape, and I would not recommend being too dependent on the health system if you can help it. In times of instability, there could be shortages of prescriptions and also doctors that are readily available. All right, let's look up here at number 8. Should I be storing food? Yes. No questions asked. Yes, you should be storing food. In lieu of the United States experiencing a horrible drought at the moment, I do not predict any major food shortages in the immediate future, but I do see them down the road. I can see that this drought will more than likely cause food prices to spike. So I see food storage as an investment that hedges protection for your family, but it's also seen as an asset that increases in value. Now, keep in mind that these resources can not only be utilized in the event of an economic collapse, but also for any natural disaster for that matter. I can tell you there's some great companies that are out there. I know that I invested through www.foodinsurance.com. They're a great company. They were easy to work with. They have several plans that you can find that's right for you and your family and your needs. They have, if you can't afford to get the package in full at the time, they have wonderful, wonderful monthly payment plans that you can establish on your terms. And in the event, like you're going along, you're on the monthly plan, you're receiving your shipment every month, you come across a month that it's tough, you can call them right up and you can skip a month or 2 months or 3 months or stop it altogether. It's very flexible. Foodinsurance.com is a great company. Number 9 here. Should I be storing water? Absolutely. Water is one of the most important assets and needs for survival. You should read, though, how to properly store water so that your water storage is safe if and when the time arrives that it's needed. More importantly than storing water is you need to think about an external source of water, acquisition. Like if a disaster were to strike, your water storage will eventually run out. So if the electrical grid were to crash, such as an EMP, which would be a long-term problem, what would be your long-term solution to obtain water? All right, let's look at number 10. What else should I be storing? This one's pretty basic. Other than food and water, some supplies that you could need. Anything that you need on a fairly consistent basis. Batteries, flashlight, toilet paper, the essentials, those sort of things. Let's look at number 11. What happens if the power grid goes down? That's a very good question. There's a lot of people, this is something seriously to consider, especially if you live in areas that become extremely cold or excessively hot. There are people who have gas power generators, which are good for a short-term fix because you constantly have to be buying fuel and things to keep them running. So that's not good for a long-term solution. There are things out there like wind turbines, solar panels, which sometimes can work and not work depending on the region of America that you live in. So you need to study and find out what works in your area. The other thing is these things can be a little pricey. So just keep your eyes and ears open and look for other ways of generating electricity for yourself, okay? Number 12, this is really critical. Should I leave big cities? That's a great question. In today's times, a job is priceless. It can be a really tough decision to leave a good job and pack up and leave for the country. But let me tell you, society is absolutely breaking down, and I highly anticipate major civil unrest in the very near future. At the end of the day, you have to do what is best for you and your family, and I cannot decide that for you. Number 13, should I get some self-defense training? I love this one. I talk to my wife about this all the time. I try and teach her that if someone breaks into our home while we are home, then when you shoot to kill. Sorry for all you people who love the little bunny foo-foos out there, but if you break into my home while I'm there, I'm going to shoot to kill. Sometimes with my wife, she's got like this big loving heart. She wants to believe that she can, just take out a kneecap or something. Let's be real honest though. When a bad guy comes to pay you a visit, they're not coming over to have tea or debate the latest political issue with you or to talk about how much fun they had at their most recent vacation at the beautiful resort called jail. They care nothing about you. They care nothing about your feelings. They care nothing about your thoughts or about your opinions. They care nothing about your well-being. They're going to do what they came to do and more than likely have the intention of allowing no one to get in their way, including you. And if that means hurting you, then they more than likely will do so. Yes, I highly recommend taking some form of self-defense preparation classes. I would recommend some hand-to-hand training and also obtain some form of professional and proper firearms training. All right, lastly, I get this one a lot. What should I do if my family and friends will not listen to me? I get this one a ton. I definitely know how you feel. Believe me. I think my extended family thinks I'm nuts, okay? Listen, if they will not listen to you, please do not argue with them. Just keep planting seeds. Continue sending them information about what is happening and how to prepare. If no one will listen to you, then you should still be preparing as much as you can right now. Right now. More than likely, you will need to do extra preparations to help your friends and family who do not listen to you. Okay? And listen, when they come, when it happens and they need help, do not hold a grudge. We will all need each other in order for us to restore our country. Be compassionate and loving. That is the perspective that my wife and our family have taken. We are preparing to take care of ourselves, but we are also preparing to help our family and neighbors. You must also prepare mentally and spiritually. We have a huge challenge before us. We will need all the strength that we can muster up physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You cannot be a lone wolf and make it. You just will not survive. It is going to take all of us working together as a community to get through what I believe we're about to witness. None of us have all the answers. I know that I certainly do not. And to be honest, I pray that I am wrong in many, if not all, of my assessments. But the pieces of the puzzle are showing an ugly picture. We must be willing to listen and learn from each other. I surely want to continuously learn new things and ideas, and I hope you feel the same way. It's my goal that through this knowledge, it's not to scare you, it's not to be doom and glooming in the world, but preparation is what's going to be able for us to stand up and be part of the solution and not part of the problem. Which part do you want to be, America? Do you want to be the part that buries your head in the sand and hopes that just the bad man will just go away on its own? It's not. Or do you want to be part of the people who open your eyes, get rid of the political agendas, get rid of this red team, blue team fight, get rid of this junk, and sit down and say, you know what? Look at all the pieces of the puzzle. Do you need all the pieces of a puzzle to be actually put together to know what the picture is? Or can you have a few pieces missing to still know what it is? Okay, you don't have to have all the pieces. Once all the pieces are together, once all of them are together, it's too late, America. It's too late. We've got to start preparing now. If you want society to not end up in chaos and not be this mass apocalyptic thing where people are chasing you down the streets, we have to band together. We have to prepare now. The government's preparing. They are. They're preparing. They know what's coming. Are you? Good night, America. Thanks for joining us here at The Tip and at agendatruth.com, where the truth is our only agenda.